Today I want to teach you that fiction writers have tools to clarify the meanings in their stories for their reader. They can spotlight what's most important by including imagery and symbolism. They do this by focusing on key objects, settings, or actions. Some of you may be thinking that imagery and symbolism are too complicated for you to incorporate as writers. After all, you've just started to get good at spotting these as readers. But the truth is, in some ways, creating imagery and symbolism that spotlight the meaning in your own stories is almost easier than finding and studying these as readers. It's the same thing as when you hide something from someone. It is so much easier to be the hider than the finder. And really, when you use imagery and symbolism to highlight meaning in your stories, you're doing a sort of literary hiding. Here are some ways you can use imagery and symbolism in your own stories. Pause the video and take a minute to read over the list. Now, if we were to add symbolism to Esmeralda's story, we would start by thinking, what is this story really about? That meaning has evolved a bit, hasn't it? If we'd answered this question when we began writing the story, I think we would have agreed it was about fitting in. But lately, the story has felt more and more about how the choices we make can affect us and the people in our lives, and also about the idea of knowing the kind of person you are, and recognizing the importance of standing up for yourself and the people you care about, not just compromising who you are to fit in. That's a lot. I'm going to reread part of our story, and as I do, help me look for objects, settings, or actions we could develop to reflect this meaning. As I walked down the hallway, I listened for other kids' voices. I knew some of my friends must have been somewhere, but I also really wanted to find the popular kids like Liz and Mauve. I know, that is so funny, I heard from a doorway on the left. I was pretty sure it was Mauve's voice. I walked a few more steps, not sure if I should go into the room or not. I have never laughed so hard in my whole life, said Liz, her voice sounding so happy. I turned to the doorway and saw them in a room that must have been Liz's bedroom. So based on what I know about the meaning of the story, a couple of objects, setting pieces really, jump out at me. The long hallway and the doorways. Are you seeing that too? I think I could make the doorways themselves a bit more important because they could represent choices. Do I choose this door or this one? And I could also really do some work with the hallway. Describe it more so that it is elevated from a set piece to an image. The long hallway, especially if I show it as dark and a little confusing, can be a nice transition image for her choices. So let's see, how's this? I headed into the hallway. It was much longer than my hallway at home and sort of empty. My hallway at home was covered with family pictures and filled with light. This one was plain, nothing hanging on the walls. And since someone had turned out the lights, it was a bit dark. As I walked down the hallway, I listened for other kids' voices. I knew some of my friends must have been somewhere, but I also really wanted to find the popular kids like Liz and Mauve. I know, that is so funny, I heard from a white-trimmed doorway on the left. I was pretty sure it was Mauve's voice. I walked a few more steps, not sure if I should go into the room or not. There was light pouring out of the doorway. I have never laughed so hard in my whole life, said Liz, her voice sounding so happy. I turned to the glowing, beckoning door and saw them in a room that must have been Liz's bedroom. Writers, let's try this. Max told me he was really trying to write a story about a kid with bad self-esteem, trying to get comfortable with himself, no matter what other people said. Here's a short story of his. Take a quick look at this and think a bit about ways we might use imagery and symbolism to elevate the meaning if you were Max.
I sat in the middle of the bus. The cool kids sat in the back. The nerdy kids sat in the front where the bus driver could keep an eye on them. I sat in the middle with all sort of regular kids. The ones who just wanted to be left alone. I sat by myself, wishing, like I always did, that my mom would let me walk home like Rick. But she always said, "One more year. When you're in high school you can knock yourself out." Then she laughed like she had made the funniest joke in the world. Anyway, I was sitting on the bus, bored and trying not to be noticed when I took out my phone. I went to swipe to turn it on, it flashed red battery sign. It was dead. Now what? I had a long bus ride home with nothing to do. I could do my homework. But why would I want to do that?
So how might we use imagery and symbolism in Max's story? Well, he might be able to add something about the phone. Like how you could use the phone as a mirror. That would be a way to show that he's conscious. He could look in the phone like it's a mirror and not like what he sees. Then the phone could be a symbol for what he feels about himself and a symbol of how he doesn't feel connected to the world because it doesn't work. Writers, do you see how that example takes the phone and uses it as a symbol for how Max is feeling? Or Max could work on the imagery a bit more. The imagery of Rick being gone. Maybe focus on the fact that the seat next to him is empty, and almost every other seat on the vehicle has two people sitting together. With that example, you'd be taking the image of the empty seat and connecting it to how he's feeling. Writers, do you see how both of those examples, either his phone being used as a mirror or the empty seat next to him, are examples of symbolism and imagery? You're taking a symbol or image and connecting it to a bigger idea in the story. In this case, it would be how Max is feeling. Writers, when you go back to the lesson platform, you'll be able to finish this activity.